From a Pokemon song all the way to a full-on war operation, here are the top 5 cursed songs you need to pray before listening to, part 2. Number 5 on this list is Alexander Scriabins' Piano Sonata number 6. This sonata was composed in 1911 by the Russian composer and pianist Alexander Scriabin. It is one of the creepiest sonatas ever done though, and even its composer thought so. Wikipedia says, as it is one of the late piano sonatas of Scriabin's career, the music consists of a single movement and is almost atonal, although it is sometimes listed as being the key of G. Scriabin reportedly never played the sonata in public because he feared its darkness. According to Scriabin's biographer, Fabian Bowers, the 6th sonata is a nether star. Its dark and evil aspect embraces horror, terror, and the omnipresent unknown. Only my music expresses the inexpressible, Scriabin boasted, and called the 6 sweet and harsh harmonies nightmarish, murky, dark and hidden, unclean, and mischievous. When he played excerpts for friends, he would stare off into the distance away from the piano as if watching effluvium rise from the floor and walls around him. He seemed frightened and sometimes shuddered. That's really scary, guys. If I was sitting around the dinner table and watching my piano player literally shudder to himself as he's playing his own music and then go into some deep dark trance, then I think I'd be a little on edge. Nightmarish, murky, unclean. These are not the words I like to hear when somebody is describing a song, especially when it's the literal writer of the song who's saying that. Number 4 on this list is Lavender Town. Okay, so first off guys, I am a massive Pokemon fan, so much so that I even have my own Pokemon YouTube channel called Polyrad, check it out. But because I am so well versed in this series of games and have played through all of them multiple times, I think I can very intelligently speak on this entry. Lavender Town is a town introduced in the first generation of Pokemon Red and Green. The player gets to this town pretty early in the game, and once they step foot into it, gets hit with the creepiest Pokemon song that has ever been recorded. It's this soft but chilling song that honestly makes you feel just empty inside. The town itself is home to the Pokemon Tower, which is where a bunch of ghosts reside, so it makes sense why this town is so scary. Also, when the player gets there, all the NPCs are talking about how Team Rocket has murdered a Marowak and now its ghost is haunting the town. Thing is, this Marowak isn't the only thing to have died because of this place. Apparently in Japan, when these games were released, over 100 children took their own lives after listening to this song. Something about the chords seems to affect young children in a way that it doesn't affect adults. It does something to their mind and sends them to this horrible place. If they don't take their own life, then sometimes they get hit with other ailments as well. Psychosis and overall sickness have all been talked about when people listen to this freaking song. It's really scary and truly horrible that a game as amazing as this caused so much tragedy. Now I do want to say that this isn't an absolute rule, obviously. I've listened to this song many times through my playthroughs and I'm still okay, but just be aware that if you do choose to play through these games again, then this could be a factor. Number 3 on this list is Tiptoe Through the Tulips. So this entry was actually a recommendation by a user from the first part of this series. Baron Zemo commented, "I swear, Tiny Tim's Tiptoe Through the Tulips has got to be haunted." I did some digging and you honestly might be onto something. Tiptoe through the window, by the window, that is where I'll be. Come tiptoe through the tulips with me. Oh, tiptoe from the garden, by the garden of the willow tree, and tiptoe through the tulips with me. Those are the first lyrics of that song, and already I'm a little bit creeped out. Now, if we take the lens of scary out of it for a second, these lyrics, they could be very sweet. Come, tiptoe through the tulips with me. Like, that's a really sweet thing, but something about the way that this song is done, it just makes it so eerie. The question is why though? What is it about this song that gets to us? Well, there's several great articles actually breaking this down. A great one written by Paranormal says, the real reason Tiptoe Through the Tulips makes people feel uncomfortable is the same as the reason why so many people are afraid of clowns. A clown's costume exaggerates facial features in some body parts such as hands, feet, and noses. In the case of clowns, these physical inaccuracies can be read as monstrous or deformed as easily as it can be read as comical. Their makeup transforms them from a normal person into somebody from the so-called uncanny valley. creepy, a term used to describe a figure which is lifelike enough to be disturbing, but not realistic enough to be pleasant. Tiptoe Through the Tulips falls into the uncanny valley too. Tiny Tim doesn't perform the song in a traditional singing style, and his voice isn't quite silly enough to make it comical. It just comes across as slightly sinister. In the same way as Clowns portrays an idea of forced fun, Tiny Tim's rendition of the song is almost too happy, too forced, making it all the more creepy. So it's very possible that this song isn't inherently cursed, but just that the specific way that it's performed hits us all at our core. Granted, I do think that an argument for a potential curse can be made. Anything with the ability to make literally everyone in the room stop and feel a sense of fear is pretty powerful. This song has also been said to get people deep in their heads, almost to a place of depression if listened to on repeat. So proceed with caution if you do intend to listen to it. Number 2 on this list is the Ghost Variations. Robert Schumann was a German composer who lived in the 1800s. Schumann composed a lot of music in his years of being an active composer. Some of it is quite beautiful, but some of it is just flat out creepy. Interlude says, throughout his life, Schumann had been plagued with what we would now call manic depression or bipolar disorder. Aware of these contrasting sides to his personality, he gave them names. Florestan was the energetic and passionate artist who could write a symphony in just 4 days. Eusebius was the depressive introvert. By 1854, the year Gestationen was composed, Schumann teetered perilously on the brink between madness and lucidity, and he was well aware of his unstable mental condition. He had on several previous occasions begged Clara to have him incarcerated. On February 17th, he rose in the middle of the night and wrote down a choral-like spirit theme which he believed was dictated to him by the ghost of Mendelssohn or Schubert. But by the morning, the voices of angels in his head had turned into the hideous voices of tigers and hyenas. This teetering between madness and lucidity is heard the most in his final compositions, which many people have nicknamed the Ghost Variations. This is what he wrote in the middle of the night in his manic state. Listening to this, from what I have heard, gives the listener the feeling that they too are going mad, that their mind is leaving them and their sanity is draining away. Music, especially classical music, is an excellent medium to portray such a feeling, and considering Robert was literally going through it when he composed this music, he kinda nailed it in that regard. All of that being said though, for your mental health, I don't recommend giving this one a listen. And finally, number 1 on this list is Operation Wandering Soul. So the Vietnam War was just all kinds of messed up for so many different reasons, and this is just another one of those things. Operation Wandering Soul was a tactic employed by the Americans to scare the Viet Cong out of their position. The Viet Cong had a far better grasp on the landscape and their home turf, but the Americans had far better technology and they intended to use their tech. On February 10th, 1970, it started. It was just after dark when the night sky of South Vietnam came to life with an array of sounds coming from all over the place. Screams, blood-curdling cries, a person yelling in Vietnamese, "Don't end up like me, go home friends before it's too late." Women were sobbing, children were calling for their mothers, and there were sounds of people dying. This wasn't actually happening in real time though. It was actually just a broadcast. That's right folks, the Americans thought that a good way to get the Viet Cong to move from their position was through fear, and they thought by playing this sick recording that they'd eventually lose their nerve and leave. This wasn't effective in the long run though, and actually may have cursed the Americans and this recording. You see, the Vietnamese soldiers believed that their dead must be given a proper burial on their home soil, and this can't be interrupted, or else the souls of the dead will come back and haunt them. Well, this cacophony of noise certainly interrupted and stopped some of these burials from happening. These souls, rather than haunt the Viet Cong soldiers, actually went to haunt the Americans though, and this tape in general. This tape is filled with the sounds of death and sadness and just so many other horrible things, and on top of all of that, it's also cursed. But there you have it guys, that is our list of the top 5 cursed songs you need to pray before listening to, part 2. Please comment down below what you thought about this list and some other potentially cursed songs that you know about. Also please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. I've been your host Nicholas Playlog, and I'll catch you next time.